My home life was, my dad was Walter and my mum was Johanne, and there was 8 children. I was the 3rd child. In our young days, it was poor but very good, you know, like we had a good home life really. My dad and my mum were really good people. He worked for the council, and my mum looked after the children. She was a marvellous mum. She did everything, knit, sew, cook. She was really good at everything.
What are your earliest memories of home life?
Well, I can remember playing about. We lived in Marley Hill, and all our games were just made up, you know. We played outside in the fields mostly. We didn't really have toys like the children today. We made up our own fun, like little, we call them cabbie houses, with bottles and tins and selling shops, and we. I don't really remember ever having toys, except one Christmas. From my Christmas present was a stocking with a colouring book, a pen, a rag doll and an orange. And I thought it was gold.
What do you remember about your grandparents?
My dad's parents, vaguely, I remember we used to go there on a Sunday. My dad took me to Mass in Grange, and I was on the carrier of his bike, and we used to visit them every Sunday. But my mum's parents we saw more of because I lived there for some time. I went to school in Care, secondary school, from their house. And my dad had a donkey and cart, and he used to take us into the shops to do the shopping in Care. And he was a gardener, lovely people, you know.
Now we're going to talk about the home district.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about your home district or your area?
Well, our home district would be Marley Hill, Ardfinnan, Grange, Clonmel, Care, around about. But on our road, we just had then my mum and dad's house, next door neighbours Fennes's. Next door to that was Jim Scully's, the farmer, Dara's, and then my house, where we used to have to go and buy our milk. We used to go and get a little billy can and buy the milk from there. We'd get our eggs from Dara's, because she had hens, and our milk from my house. Then Burke's was the next house, and up in that little narrow boreen is Paddy Mack's. We used to walk up there to pick mushrooms.
What were the houses like back then? Were there any thatched houses?
Well, the farmhouse where we got our milk was thatched. I think that was the only thatched house. And they were all little cottages, like Grandad's cottage, like that. You know, very small, compact. There was 8 of us. We had, well, 10 of us with Mum and Dad, so we had to share that house. But it's bigger now. But then it was 2 bedrooms upstairs, a little one downstairs, a kitchen, and a scullery, really. So we all had to share upstairs. There's 5 of us in one room. My mum and dad were in the other one.
What about toilets?
So our toilet was outdoors. We had to get up in the night and go outside when we had to go to the toilet. We were freezing. But, of course, really heating the house, you know, was a hard job. But when I can remember babies, whichever babies were born, they used to have to get up in the night and light papers in the grate to heat the milk.
Yeah.
That's how they kept me, you know, to heat the bottles, you know.
What are the main changes you've seen in your area over the years?
Oh my goodness me, changes.
You
We
didn't have
had no electricity. At night we used to have a really big open fire. It was huge. and it'd be blazing. The light from that used to light up that front room, you know, sitting room now in the house. And then we had a huge big table where we all sat around to do our homework with candles, you know. All those things I remember really well. We used to have to cycle down there. They had a big tap at the bottom of the road. Do you remember that?
The push one.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah. And we used to bring our water home in buckets. By the time we got here, most of it was spilled. We used to cycle home with it. Yeah, that's true. That. And of course the milk, we used to have to go for the milk every evening down to my house. But the electricity didn't come for years later, you know. I'd well left home by then, you know.
And what age were you when you left home?
I left home at about 16 and a half.
Yeah.
And I went to Sheffield then to do nursing. And that was really young then, you know, to go. I cried for a whole year after leaving all my family, you know.
Why did you go?
Well, there wasn't a chance. My dad had died by this time, and we just had to go, you know. Johnny had already gone, and then I was the next. A woman called Nugent in Ardfinnan had a sister in a convent in a nursing hospital in Sheffield, and she said, would I like to go there? So I went, and I'd signed up for a year. It was a mentally handicapped children's home, and then I went back the second year, and then from there on I went to Sheffield General, and then I came to from Sheffield I came to Hastings, and then I went to London, went all around different places in London.
And when you moved to England at such a young age, how often did you come home?
We had to sign for a year, so we couldn't come home for a year, and I came home the first year. And when you leave home and you come back, you expect everything to be the same, but my friends had all gone, moved on, and there wasn't anything there. There was no jobs, and so I went back again to Sheffield. And then the next year I came home, and then I went on to Hastings. But then I still wanted to come home to work, to stay, you know, because I really missed my family. But there wasn't any work. But I found a job in Dublin with a doctor's family. But because I'd come from a hotel, which was 5-star, and I lived as one of the family, you know, the manager's children. And then I had to come back to Ireland. And in Ireland, they treated you like a maid, you know, it was really horrible. So I went to this doctor's family, and I was just put in a little room as a little maid servant, no telly, no radio, nothing. So I think I stayed there about a month, and I said to my mum I want to come home. So I just left and came home and went back to England, and there I've been ever since. You know. But our games were hopscotch, hula hoops, and hide and seek. But when we were hiding, we went in the farmer's land next door, where they had all the haystacks and hay rigs, and that was really good fun. And other than that, we just made up our own little games, you know, like shops and things out in the shed. And we had jam jars, tins, all sorts. We didn't have all the nice things you have today.
What games did you play at school?
I can always remember the boys went on the green to play football, but we just generally made up our own games in the playground.
After school, what games would you play?
Well, by the time we'd walked from school, which is a good mile and a half, we had to do our homework, and we were tired, you know. We just used to go outside and play our own little games, you know, like maybe hide and seek, or we did have snakes and ladders and Ludo if we wanted indoors. But then we all had to sit around the table and do our homework. So the night was gone really, you know.
What types of food or meals did you have for breakfast, dinners and supper when you were young?
Yeah. I think mostly in our family my mum we used to have porridge, but then we had homemade bread, sometimes eggs if we're lucky. And dinner was, as I say, like again, a lot of those things I can't remember, but I can remember having spaghetti, just plain spaghetti, and maybe cheese on top if we were lucky. Bacon and cabbage I've always remembered. But on a Sunday we did have a nice roast dinner, and my mum always made jelly and custard, and we had no fridge then, so they had to set that on the back window to you know, get frozen. We used to run along and stick our fingers in it when she would be shouting out the window to tell us to get off the jelly. And then my dad grew all his own vegetables, potatoes, carrots, everything, beetroot, the lot. And then he kept pigs at one stage, where we used to have pig's meat for dinner. He made all his own black puddings. And my mum had chickens, she reared them from babies, they hatched. And then she had the chickens, so we had home eggs, like. And so we've often had rabbit for dinner, we had chicken for dinner, bacon from the pigs. And we had goat when we were young as well. It was nice, it was strong but nice. But then we were young and there wasn't that much about, so we were happy to have goat.
Yeah. What types of bread did you eat and how was it made?
Well, like I said, my mum made all our bread apart from what we bought at the store, and that was beautiful. She used to make white and brown. She made all her own cakes, scones, and all her own Christmas cakes. She was a brilliant cook, you know.
What types of meat did you have, and how was it stored, cooked and served?
Well, we always had, I can remember having lamb on a Sunday, or chicken, because they killed their own chickens, and the pigs, the bacon. So when my dad killed the pigs in that living room now, this had some kind of rafters there, because I can remember the pigs' meat hanging all along in a row for it to be cured. Obviously the smoke maybe from the fire would cure that meat, or you had to hang it for a year maybe to cure it. And then he made all the black puddings and they were hanging off the ceiling.
And how did you cut up the pig, if you had a pig hanging?
Well, he
would you have to go to a butcher?
No, he did it himself. I can remember the pigs squealing, but I know with the rabbits and the chickens, he used to have this block in the garden. Sounds awful, doesn't it? Yeah, but then butchers do this every day, don't they? He had this block, round block, half a tree like, and he put the head of the chicken on and just chop it. And I think he must have done the same with the pigs, you know, when he killed the pigs. Didn't sound very nice, but...
Was every part of the animal used?
Yeah.
Were there foods for special occasions like Christmas, Easter and Lent?
Lent, well, in them days we weren't allowed to eat meat on a Friday. It was just fish. But I don't think we could afford that much fish, so we had mashed potatoes with spring onion and cream, on a Friday we got from the creamery in the village. Christmas we always had plenty of, like we always had goose at Christmas and plenty of whatever, Christmassy things. So I can never remember being hungry at Christmas.
What types of crockery and pots were used to cook or serve the food?
Well, cooking was the big skillet pot. Like I said, you cooked everything in that on the open fire. But then basically it was the same dishes as today. But I can remember when we were young, when they ran out of cups, when the travelling people, well, I can't say what I was going to say, when the travelling people went by, we'd buy tin, they used to make tin mugs. I remember my dad buying some of those from them. And then if we didn't have cups, we'd use jam pots. And often the jam pots cracked with the heat of the tea. Well, my school life, Jack, wasn't really a very happy one. I didn't like school because we didn't have very nice teachers. My particular teacher, when I was in infants, I did have a really nice teacher. But then in the next class was obviously the headmistress then, but she had a mum next door that was ill, and she spent most of her time in and out looking after her mum. But then she used to sit on a table, and she had the biggest thick stick you've ever seen, and she used to sit on that table and all you could see was her bloomers, and she used to beat us with that stick. And I think I was traumatized, from school because I just never could learn because the way she was, and we had the leaving cert, wasn't it? And then two girls and I decided we wouldn't go because in the class I was good at Irish, but I couldn't grasp maths. But they weren't like today, while teachers are good and they'll help you through. But if you didn't know, then she just banged a big stick on the table, and that was it. It was like a horror story, really, school, I thought, in Ardfinnan. My teacher's name was Miss Clifford, and oh my goodness me. But I don't think, when I left school, then I went to the technical school in Care, and I enjoyed that. But as far as my younger days were horrible.
Do you know any other of your teachers' names?
Well, there was only the two then, Miss Clifford and Miss Hickey. Miss Hickey was the junior teacher, and the headmistress was Miss Clifford. They were just the two. But I'd imagine they're not around anymore. Maybe Miss Hickey, I don't know.
Can you describe a typical school day?
Typical school day. Well, we got up in the morning and we all got ourselves ready. Got our little bag and we had our bread and jam in the bag. So we walked into our Finnan village to the school. Sometimes snow, I can remember the snow being higher than me when I was little. But we had to get to school for 9 o'clock in the morning. We used to bring a little bottle of cocoa and put it by the fire and hope it would be there when lunch break came, because sometimes the heat of the fire burst the cocoa. But just then we started at 9 and it was a real cold, because we didn't have heating then like you did. Sometimes our shoes didn't have any toes in. And it was really hard going to school, I thought.
Can you tell me what the classroom was like?
It was just a big square room, floorboards and little desks. And the teacher had a big wooden table up at the top that she sat on with her stick. It was just, and then they had a partition into the next classroom to the young children.
What kind of toilets did you have at school?
We did have an outside toilet. There's toilets running along by the bog there, isn't there? There was, I think there might have been 3. It was outdoor toilets.
What type, or what was the discipline policy at the time? And tell me a time you got into trouble, if you did.
Well, that was the only time I can remember that I got into trouble at school, was when we didn't go to that exam, and the 2 girls and myself that decided, we planned the night before, and my mum was really lenient, but she said you'd get into trouble, so I said, but I can't go. So we stayed at home that day, but we were frightened of going back next day. But then we said, each one of us, when we got to the classroom, we looked to see if the other girl's coat was there, and then we'd go in. But if the others, we'd all try to get there together. But we got a good hiding.
What was the hiding? Was that a slap in the hand?
No,
or
the stick.
And where would you
Across
get hit?
the back of the legs.
Is that really?
She was hard. She was, yeah. We were sore.
What do you think of school now?
Compared to when you went to
I
school?
think school today is absolutely brilliant. Well, by the time even my youngest brother and sister came along, the schools have got much better teachers, nice teachers. And I do think that they've a better chance. And I do think they learn a lot more, because the teachers are nicer.
When you went to Care Secondary, had you a favourite teacher?
I can remember the name of my cookery teacher, Miss Conway, and Miss Ryan. The both of them were lovely. Miss Ryan was the English one. Miss Conway was the cookery one. All the teachers were nice in the technical school.
And if you had your choice, would you prefer to be brought up in the era that you were brought up in, or would you prefer to be brought up now?
I'd really prefer to be brought up in the era I was brought up in, but with a little bit more.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not OTT, like,
Yeah. And you think it's gone OTT?
Oh, I think big time,
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Like as I said, I don't know any children now that wants to play little simple games,
Yeah.
Or
Or do you notice a difference in children nowadays when they're talking to adults or
Yeah.
grown-ups or
Yeah.
grandparents?
Yeah.
Is there a big difference?
Yeah, I think children today, I don't know all children, but they don't have respect for, you know what I mean? But for the grown-ups, we were made to respect our elders. If we spoke to our mum the way some of these children do today, we would have been killed.
Really?
And we wouldn't even think of doing it.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's how we were made to respect our elders. That was one of the things my mum was good at. She said, always respect your elders. And I've never forgotten it,
Yeah.
Have you any examples of stories told by your parents or grandparents?
Well, the only stories I can remember, Jack or my dad, he used to, when he put us to bed at night, when he went up on top of the landing, we wouldn't be sleeping, so he'd say, if you don't go to sleep, the banshee, can you hear her? And the cats, if the cats are crying outside, he used to say it was the banshee. And if the banshee was crying, you'd have to go to sleep. But he used to scare the life out of us. And then there was another one, every now and again in Ireland, somebody had seen this man with the cloven foot. Was it a cloven foot? And we were afraid to go out. One day after school they told us about that he was around this area. But we never saw him. It was just a tale, I think they were
Are there
telling.
any local traditions like connecting some place in the parish with saints?
Well, the only place I know is Patrick's Well in Marlafield, where St. Patrick was supposed to be. But other than that, I can't remember any of the other ones.
Is there any up the V?
There's Liam Lynch's monument there, that's not a saint. The grotto in Melleray, where Petticoat lives. Now I'm not sure who Petticoat lives was, but she jumped into the lake years ago, or fell into the lake years ago, and everybody says she appears there.
Do you know any local songs? If so, what is the story behind it?
Well, the only Irish song, I know lots of Irish songs, but the one I remember most of all was when my dad and Mum, when we go to bed at night, my dad had friends that came from the village too. One was called Ramona, and my mum played the accordion, and I can remember him singing a song called The Old Bog Road and Sleeve na Mum, but most of them, The Old Bog Road, maybe a few words I know, but not Sleeve na Mum.
Next we're going to talk about religion. Can you tell me about religion practice when you were young?
When we were young, we had to, we always had to go to Mass Sunday morning. My dad and Mum were really strict. We had to all have our bath on a Saturday night in our big tin bath, and one after the other, be all scrubbed clean and go to bed early and go to sleep for Mass in the morning. And then we did always have a cooked breakfast when we came on a Sunday morning, but maybe that was later years, you know. When the younger years, I can't remember that much. But we, on a Sunday evening, we had to, we had the rosaries every evening. We used to have to kneel down around the fire, say the rosary, and that seemed to be forever. But then we weren't allowed out on a Sunday night unless we went to devotion first. I think that took about a half hour, and if you can't go to devotion, you're not going out to the dance, and that was it. So my dad was very strict with us.
What did you do for religion class?
Well, we had religion class at school. We had to do the catechism. We had to learn off the catechism by heart, and I can only vaguely remember that. It was a little book we had.
What priests or nuns do you remember?
In Outfinnan we had a Father Baldwin who got killed, and then there was Father McCarthy, who was the parish priest. I remember him well because we were always made to respect our elders, and as I said, and my goodness, the priests, if we did anything out of place. But he used to go up to Hanrahan's, this priest, the parish priest he was, and we were standing at our gate one day and we went like that to him. Well, we got such a hiding for that.
From your parents?
Yeah, my mum gives
Yeah.
a hand just for saluting the priest. She thought that was a bit rude, you know, doing it to the priest especially. But we thought it was very nice.
Have there been any changes in the churches? Like you said about the heat, it's a lot warmer now.
Oh, I think the churches are very warm now, and they're much better heated and everything. But I think more lenient, you know. I mean, the churches we have over now, they're far lenient. Where when we were young, it was drummed into us and preached so much, you know, like very serious. And children don't need things like that beaten into them, you know what I mean? Like I said, when I made my first Holy Communion, we were at the altar one day and the teacher said, if you do something wrong, the host will come out and jump out of your mouth. Oh, stupid things they said to us. And you don't need to hear that as a child, you know. I mean, I must have just been terrified of everything. the priests, the nuns, the school teachers. Oh God, I don't know how I ever survived.
What do you think about religion now and for the future?
Now, that's a very difficult one, Jack. That is. I do think if things don't change, you know, where in religion, priests don't want to, boys don't want to be priests anymore, do they? And I do think if they don't change the rules about priests marrying, that they'll never have any more. So that's my opinion, but maybe not everybody else's, you know.
Thank you very much for doing this interview with us as part of the Digital Reconnections project organised by Muintir na Tíre. We have really enjoyed talking to you and have learned a lot about your times in the past.